Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thanks a lot for joining us once again. Everyone is welcome to Mufti. In this educational, hands-on, practical tutorial, I, your brother in Islam, Abu Ramla, I want to show you by Allah's permission what is the proper Mufti way of making that which is called a cuppa, or proper cuppa. A proper cup or pot of good old English tea or British tea. Now notice that I didn't say I want to teach you the proper way of making English tea or British tea, because there are different schools of thoughts, there are different styles, different tastes. But what do we consider to be the best way, or the most practical way, or not even the best way, the way that we choose and the way that we prefer, because everyone is different. As we have explained in our theory-based lessons and lectures on tea, and as we have explained in some of our hands-on tutorials, is that there are different schools of thought. There is no absolute one way in all ways. There are principles that are agreed upon. There are practices which are agreed upon by teists, tea enthusiasts, tea pigs, tea heads, tea connoisseurs, tea disciples, tea lovers. And then there are issues of ijtihad, of independent taste, independent research, independent, potato, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, Zahiri, etc. Tea is no different. It's a human being, it's a human effort, a human endeavor, a human experience. So there are principles that are agreed upon for making tea, and then there are things that differ from country to country, person to person, household to household, cup to cup. So before we get started on how to make this British tea, you can see I have an assortment of stuff, you may say junk, on my table, this little table right here, and I've done this purposely, on purpose, inshallah. So let's look at some of the items that we have, and let's try to make this video as less dramatic as possible. So things that you're going to need, and this is not in the exact priority or the exact order, but you're going to need all of these things. Number one, water. Spring water. Doesn't have to be this brand, Poland Spring. It can be a more expensive brand, a fancier brand, or for argument's sake, you can use tap water, depending on, once again, your taste. But I would highly recommend, for the ultimate tea experience, to have good quality water. And at least, as a base, spring water. If not spring water, then filtered water. And if you had to use the tap water, then there's room for that as well. But in this tutorial, we just got some basic, simple Poland Spring. All right, you're going to need some tea. Duh. Here we have Irish breakfast, one of my personal favorites, and this is, as you can see, my personal stash or collection. This big old jug, alhamdulillah. Let's open it up. Oh, subhanallah, the smell, the aroma, man, of that tea is like, it's just different. Also, English breakfast, which is actually Scottish breakfast, as we have explained before. This is loose leaf, obviously. SubhanAllah, smells so good, wallahi. But the Irish breakfast smells better. PG Tips, as we have explained, the history of PG Tips. A strainer. Still food grade stainless steel strainer. Some spoons, assortment of spoons, half a teaspoon, tablespoon, etc. Of course, you're going to need Mufti. This is black tea as well. Kenyan tea, CTC, cut, torn, curled. We don't need this. That's for another excursion. That's tea, by the way. Don't nobody get the wrong thoughts or ideas. Evaporated milk. Doesn't have to be this brand. Maybe we'll use this, maybe we won't. Fresh milk, whole milk, not 2%, whole milk, okay? Obviously, it can be a different brand. It can be a more expensive, more bougie brand, more organic. This is a simple tutorial. Tea filters. Basically your own tea bags if you're going to use the loose leaf and make it yourself. Very important ingredient here, brown sugar. And the brown sugar has to be from Guyana. Guyana flavors. Of course, a teapot. Not of course, but a teapot. Traditional tea cup and saucer. If you want to be posh and proper. Tea mug if you want to be modern. And an electric kettle, which you don't have to use. You can use a stove, you can use fire. We have a tutorial on the different types of electric kettles. All right, and this is really cool, super cool, mashallah, nifty, right? We may use that, we may not use that. We may not use all of this stuff on the table, but I'm just showing you, give you an idea of some basic tools for your assortment and for your toolbox. Okay, so some of the theory, even though this is a hands-on practical video, what makes a proper cuppa? A cuppa. What makes a real authentic, delicious, refreshing, brisk cup of British tea or pot of British tea? What are the ingredients in British tea? Well, of course, it starts off with the tea. And the British tea is not going to be green. It isn't oolong. It isn't pu'er. It isn't an herbal tea. It isn't a yellow tea. British or English tea is going to be a black tea. A black tea. So we're talking in the Assam family, Kenya. Okay, there are different blends of British, Scottish teas, such as Ceylon. Okay, so there are teas from India, Sri Lanka, and Kenya mixed and blended to make English breakfast, Irish breakfast, so on and so forth. What we can agree on is that it's a black tea. So it isn't green, it isn't oolong, it isn't white. Peony is black tea. Whether you use bags, Yorkshire, PG, Tetley, or loose leaf, it's a black tea. And the black tea should be strong, it should be fresh, and it should be brisk. Second main ingredient of English tea, of course, is milk. Is milk. Whether that's fresh milk, whole milk, or whether it is evaporated milk. And of course, the third ingredient, I think it's fair enough to say, is sugar. Is sugar. Every now and then you have some people who have tea in the UK or influenced by the UK, the British tea, Australia, New Zealand, whatever the case may be, South Africa, whatever the case may be, in which they don't want no sugar for dietary purposes. Okay, we're not here to talk about cancer, we're not here to talk about diabetes, we're not here to talk about is white sugar or brown sugar haram. We're not here to talk about that. But we're just talking about, we're presenting the facts, journalism, right? Not cutting somebody off, forcing your opinion on them. All right, sugar. So black tea, milk, sugar are the three pillars of a proper cup of British tea. This is the type of tea that you're going to use for your British tea, your English tea, Irish breakfast, English breakfast, breakfast blend. All right, whether it is loose leaf or whether it is in a bag. Okay, then milk, preferably in this tutorial, fresh and or evaporated, but we're just going to stick with the fresh today, and sugar. And I prefer, my twist is that it be brown sugar from the lands of Guyana. You can use white sugar, you can use no sugar. That's my preference. And if you want to keep things really simple and easy, you can just say plain white sugar. All right. So those are your main ingredients. Of course, the water, the better your tea will taste by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. And your pot, once again, or if you're making an individual cup with the saucer, or if you're just having a good old-fashioned mug. Everybody clear on this, inshallah ta'ala. So the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to prepare our water. We're going to prepare our water, and for our black tea, we'll start off with the bag, and we'll also make some loose or whole leaf as they call it. We are going to bring the water to a sharp, rippling boil. Okay, you want the water to be very hot. and you want to use fresh water. You don't want to use water that's been sitting there, that's been stagnant, and that's because the fresher the water, the more oxygen, and the more oxygen means the greater releasing of the flavors of the tea, which brings about a richer, stronger, full-bodied liquor. All right, inshallah ta'ala. So that's step number one. So as we're getting our water boiled, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we want to make some preparations. So let's open our milk. Let's get our brown sugar ready, our spoons ready. Our milk is open. We have our cup, we have our mug, we have our pot. We're not going to use the evaporated milk for now. You hear that? Our teapot is starting to talk to us. The kettle, the electric kettle, is starting to roar. It's begging for love. It's begging for attention. Pour me, use me, right? Drink me. Okay. So as we've explained, the three main sins that most beginners make when making loose leaf tea, and the same applies to bags as well, but more to loose leaf: too much tea, too little tea. Water's too hot, water isn't hot enough. The tea steeped too long or didn't steep long enough. And the same applies here. So, for argument's sake, 1 mug, 1 bag of PG Tips. 1 saucer and cup, same ratio. This pot, if it were I, and Lord knows best how many ounces or milliliters this holds, the average or the standard cup according to US measurements is 8 ounces. Some say 6 ounces. What's that? 237 millis, 237 milliliters. All right. So in this pot, teapots, they vary in a range of how much water they hold. We can get out how many ounces you think are in this one. How many cups? Maybe, who knows? 8 ounces, maybe 3 or 4 ounces, 4 ounces maybe, give or take. So the ratio is going to be, number 1 bag for 8 ounces. A rough start. 1 bag, 8 ounces. So 1 bag for 8 ounces. So if this holds 3 or 4 ounces, then that's 3 bags. Okay, depending on how long you or how strong you want your tea to be. Everybody understand this? And we're just talking about the bags now. We're not dealing with the measurements of the loose leaf just yet. You clear on that, inshallah ta'ala. Sugar, I would say half a teaspoon, or let's say a teaspoon for 8 ounces of a cup. I think that's a moderate level of sweetness. Not too sweet, not where the sugar isn't there at all. So let's say 1 tablespoon or a teaspoon, or let's say for argument's sake a tablespoon. Why not? 1 tablespoon for 8 ounces. 1 tablespoon, or let's say half of a tablespoon for this one, for this little saucer thingy. Clear on that? And then you just want to multiply and add with a bigger amount. And of course, as you go along, you are going to play around with it according to your tastes. Alright, our water is boiling. Now, what do we do first? This is the age-old argument. Chicken, egg, chicken. Milk goes into the pot or the cup first, or the tea with the water, the liquor. Some say potato, some say potato. Many people say, they base it off of science, is that the milk should be added after the liquor has brewed and infused, not to disturb the chemical process of the infusing and the brewing. And others, they say rather the milk should be placed into the pot first, especially if it's China, especially if it isn't the most or the finest China and the highest quality China. And some people say that back in the day when peasants were making tea, they were poor, they weren't rich, they weren't sitting in Buckingham Palace with servants, okay, waiting on their every wish. They were afraid that their china would become cracked if they poured the hot boiling water in first. So they poured in the milk first to prime the china, to take down the brunt of the heat, not to crack. and of course why porcelain, bone porcelain, and these different types of cups and pots are called china. That in itself is a history lesson, a major history lesson with regards to the opium wars and with regards to isolation, xenophobia, the hairy, freckled-faced barbarians coming from the west on these huge wooden islands, all right, and how they wanted to trade with China, and China looked down upon them, calling them scum, calling them barbarians, and their porcelain was so fine that it was called to this very day China. Think how deep that is, subhanAllah. That all you gotta do is just mention the country. That's it, China. All right, so that's a lesson in itself. Okay, so milk first or tea first? Allahu alam. So let's start off the basic, simple, poor man's way with the mug, our tea bag. Bismillah. Now let's do 2/3 water to milk, our ratio. All right, Bismillah. The water has to be very hot, and we want to fill up the cup until we reach a little more than 2/3, 3/4, a little more. I would say that's fair enough. You don't want the tea to be too milky. It's not like it's chai masala or anything like that. All right, and let's leave this, and it's going to differ on person to person, your taste. Let's say 2 to 5 minutes, depending on your taste. Me personally, I wouldn't brew it for 5 minutes straight, unless you know you want what they call a builder's brew, really strong. So 2 to 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes. All right, now I'm trying my best to be accurate with the measurements, but at the same time, oftentimes it isn't based off of measurements. It's based off of feeling, right? You gotta feel it. You gotta be in the mood. All right, 2 to 5 minutes. Like my little corny spoon tricks. Huh. All right. Was that 2 minutes? Now, do we take the bag out when we pour the milk? I'm going to pour the milk after about at least a minute of the brewing into the cup, and I'm going to allow my milk to infuse with my liquor. Bismillah. Look at the magic begin. You don't want to fill it too much, and we're going to let it sit just like this. And there's some people, some madhabs, that allow the tea bag to remain in the cup, and some people may put 2 bags in their cups, depending on how you like it, how strong and how brisk you want it to be. Just let it sit there. And you know, whether you pull out a book and read, make dhikr in the meantime, all right, read some Quran in the meantime, your personal mushaf, and you allow the tea to brew. You can use a spoon. I'll just pinch it. You want to make sure that the bag is all of the liquor comes out the bag properly through the heat, the temperature, and just the time. And of course, it's very simple and basic, but you don't want to fill it too much in which you don't have space for your sugar, right? The bag is going. We want to make sure that we have enough space for our sugar. We want to try, as we said, 1 tablespoon. Look at that beautiful sugar. And unfortunately, sugar, like many other products and commodities, have a very dark and painful history. I would advise you, and at the same time I wouldn't advise you, to read the history of sugar in the Caribbean and in the New World, being taken back to Spain, Portugal, Britain, France. The long, painful history of sugar. Sugar is, people say blood diamond. Sugar is blood sugar. Allah musta'an. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. All right, so you want to stir it well, counterclockwise, clockwise, both, clockwise, then counterclockwise. Give it a good stir, don't be shy. There you go. English breakfast, Irish breakfast, British tea. It goes perfect in my humble opinion for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, for dessert, for a snack, however, whenever you want to drink it. You get the point I'm trying to make. How's the color? And obviously you can see some similarities between this and between the chai masala or spicy chai or dirty chai or whatever the case may be. Bismillah. Sensational. Thanks a lot for watching, for tuning in. I hope that it was informative. I hope that it was practical, hands-on. If you agree or disagree, you can share your thoughts, refutations in the comments. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe to Mufti. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, the next time we are going to expand and show you how to make British tea with loose leaf tea in a pot and in the cup and the saucer. This simple basic beginner's tutorial was just on making it in a mug. Okay, it's very good. Well, Allah knows I'm not lying and making this up. Allahu Akbar. Khalas, I gotta go. I got no more time to talk to you guys. Me and this cup have some unfinished business.